At 5 in the morning on New Year's Eve, Finnish border guards detected something unusual. A cargo ship dragging its anchor through the Gulf of Finland, right where a critical telecommunications cable runs between Finland and Estonia. Within hours, Finnish special forces had boarded the vessel, detained all 14 crew members, and opened a criminal investigation into what authorities are calling suspected sabotage. This is the story of the Fitberg, but it's not just about one ship. It's about how a new kind of warfare is being waged beneath the waves of the Baltic Sea, and how the West is scrambling to stop it. The Fitberg is a 132-meter cargo vessel. It left the Russian port of St. Petersburg bound for Israel, sailing under the flag of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a tiny Caribbean nation thousands of miles from the Baltic. That might seem strange, and it is. Ships like the Fitberg often use these flags of convenience to obscure their true ownership and avoid scrutiny. When Finnish authorities inspected the vessel, they found something significant. The ship was loaded with Russian steel products, materials currently under extensive EU sanctions imposed after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So you have a ship leaving a Russian port, carrying sanctioned cargo, and it just happens to drag its anchor across critical infrastructure connecting two NATO countries. The crew members, citizens of Russia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, and Azerbaijan, were all detained. 2 were arrested, 2 more placed under travel bans. The ship now sits in a Finnish harbor while investigators piece together what really happened. But here's where this gets bigger. The Fitberg incident isn't an isolated case. It's part of a pattern that's been escalating for over a year. Since late 2023, at least 10 to 12 undersea cables and pipelines have been damaged in the Baltic Sea. The method is almost always the same. A ship drags its anchor along the relatively shallow seabed, severing critical infrastructure that carries electricity, natural gas, telecommunications, and internet traffic between countries. In October 2023, a Chinese-flagged vessel called the Nunu Polar Bear damaged the Baltic Connector gas pipeline and several telecom cables linking Finland and Estonia. China initially denied involvement, then admitted it 10 months later, blaming bad weather. In November 2024, 2 more cables were cut within 24 hours, one connecting Sweden and Lithuania, another linking Finland and Germany. A Chinese cargo ship called the Yipeng 3 was found at both locations at the time of the breaks. European authorities detained it for weeks in Danish waters while they investigated. Then came Christmas Day 2024. The oil tanker Eagle S, part of what's known as Russia's shadow fleet, dragged its anchor for over 50 miles across the Gulf of Finland, cutting a power cable and 4 telecommunications links. Finnish Prime Minister Petteri Orpo was celebrating with his family when the emergency call came through. Finnish authorities boarded the Eagle S, detained its crew, and later discovered the ship was carrying Russian oil in violation of international sanctions and was equipped with what officials described as spy equipment. But here's the frustrating part. A Finnish court dismissed the criminal case against the crew, ruling prosecutors couldn't prove intent and that Finland didn't have proper jurisdiction. This is the fundamental challenge. These incidents happen in international waters or exclusive economic zones where traditional maritime law is murky. Under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, you can't just board and detain ships on suspicion. You need proof of intent, and proving that a ship accidentally dragged its anchor for 6 hours through the exact coordinates of a critical cable is almost impossible, legally speaking. Russia denies any involvement in all of these incidents. They call it Russophobia, but European security officials aren't buying it. A Swedish submarine flotilla commander recently told reporters the situation feels like the Cold War. Her words were blunt: "We're not at peace, but not at war." That's the definition of hybrid warfare, using tactics below the threshold of armed conflict to destabilize your adversaries. Cyber attacks, disinformation, assassination attempts, incendiary packages sent through logistics networks, and yes, cutting undersea cables. Why the Baltic Sea specifically? 3 reasons. First, geography. The Baltic is shallow, averaging about 180 feet deep. Cables lie close to the surface, making them easy targets. It's also bordered by 8 NATO countries and Russia, with critical choke points and about 4,000 ships passing through daily. Second, strategic value. More than 95% of global internet traffic travels through undersea cables. An estimated $10 trillion in financial transactions flow through these systems every day. The Baltic cables connect Nordic and Baltic states to the rest of Europe and the world. Cut them and you isolate entire nations, or at least create chaos. Third, plausible deniability. When your weapon is a commercial ship that could be having a mechanical failure or navigational error, attribution becomes almost impossible. And even when you catch someone in the act, prosecution is enormously difficult. NATO finally responded in January 2025. After the Eagle-S incident, Secretary General Mark Rutte announced Operation Baltic Sentry, a new mission specifically designed to protect undersea infrastructure. Baltic Sentry deploys frigates, maritime patrol aircraft, and something new, fleets of naval drones conducting round-the-clock surveillance. An AI system at NATO's Maritime Center in the UK monitors ship movements, looking for anomalies, vessels that suddenly change course, slow down near cables, or linger suspiciously. A Danish naval captain running the AI operation says their goal is to detect threats within 30 minutes to an hour. Compare that to the Eagle-S, which dragged its anchor for 17 hours before anyone stopped it. And for a while, it seemed to work. NATO officials claimed that since Baltic Sentry launched, there had been 0 suspicious cable incidents, until the Fitberg. This is the first major incident since the operation began, and it's raising hard questions. Was this a test of NATO's response, a mistake, or proof that determined adversaries will keep probing until they find a gap? Finnish President Alexander Stubb responded quickly, thanking the coordinated agencies that detected and seized the vessel. His message was clear: Finland takes this seriously. But the broader problem remains unsolved. You can deploy all the frigates and drones you want, but the legal framework for stopping these ships is still inadequate. International maritime law wasn't written for hybrid warfare. It was written to ensure freedom of navigation, a principle Russia is now exploiting. Some experts argue Europe needs new legal tools, treaties that specifically address infrastructure sabotage at sea. Others say the focus should be on resilience, building redundant cables, faster repair capabilities, and systems that can reroute traffic when damage occurs. The Finnish telecom company Elisa, which owns the damaged cable, said its services weren't affected because traffic was automatically rerouted through backup systems. But redundancy goes only so far. If you keep cutting cables, eventually you overwhelm the backups. There's also the shadow fleet problem. Hundreds of aging tankers with murky ownership, sailing without proper insurance, evading sanctions while hauling Russian oil. These aren't just potential saboteurs, they're environmental disasters waiting to happen. Many are decades old and poorly maintained. The EU, UK, and Canada have sanctioned the Eagle-S, restricting its access to ports, but Russia has plenty more ships where that came from. So where does this leave us? The Baltic Sea has become a front line in a conflict that never formally began. No shots fired, no declarations of war, just a slow, grinding campaign against the invisible infrastructure that modern society depends on. Finland's Prime Minister summed it up. We are not in a war, but we are under attack. NATO will keep patrolling,
Engineers will keep repairing cables, courts will keep struggling with jurisdiction questions, while ships keep accidentally dragging their anchors in remarkably convenient locations. And somewhere in a Finnish harbor, a 132-meter cargo ship sits idle, its crew detained, its sanctioned cargo impounded, one small piece of evidence in a much larger puzzle. What do you think? How should the West respond to this kind of slow-motion attack? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.